Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with another rant video, and this time there wasn't such a long wait since the last one, which just happens. Like, this isn't something I planned, so yeah. There we go. By the way, if this is the type of video you really enjoy watching, don't forget to check out the playlist that I made of all of my rant videos ever. Most of them do include spoilers, but I will always let you know when those start. So in case you do still want to read the book I'm talking about, you can always click out the video in time and you won't risk getting spoiled. So I definitely recommend giving it a watch because I personally like those videos a lot. I think they're really fun to watch. And yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this one. Today I am coming to you literally after I have just finished this book 30 minutes ago. I spent like 3 hours outside because it's a really nice day, and I was lying like by the river reading The Breakdown by B.A. Paris, and I had read a little bit of it yesterday, but I read all of the rest today in one sitting, and now we're here. So let me just give you a quick synopsis of this book. It's a thriller, and it follows this woman that takes a kind of back road through the woods on the way home one night, and it's really stormy and horrible outside, and she drives by this car where there's a woman sitting inside of it, and it's just like sitting at the side of the road, and she kind of stops for a little bit and like looks back, but the woman doesn't seem to be in any sort of distress or anything. So even though she feels a little bit iffy about it, she just drives on and goes home. And the next morning she wakes up and she hears that a woman has been found murdered at that specific spot, and obviously it was the woman she saw in the car. She starts feeling really guilty about what she did, or basically didn't do, that night, and also she starts worrying that the murderer might now be after her. So it kind of goes from there. It spirals completely out of control through the course of the book, and I think that's about it. That's about all I can say about it that doesn't spoil anything, because I think specifically with thrillers it's really hard. Like, the less you say the better. So if you still want to read the book, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm giving it like a 2, maybe a 2.5 star rating, I don't know yet, but I didn't think it was good, and I don't recommend you read it. But obviously if you still want to, that's all up to you. But from here on out I will be talking spoilers, so just keep that in mind. Alright, where do we even start? Since it's just finished this book, I have like not collected my thoughts yet, but I guess I'll just give you more of the plot. Basically the main character Cass kind of thinks about going to the police about this incident, but she decides not to because she starts feeling too guilty. She's like worried that people might like call her out for not doing anything, not helping the woman. And she also doesn't tell her husband Matthew. She doesn't tell anybody in her life. So basically she just like sits on this secret, and it's really hard for her. Anytime she hears any news about the murder, she like really freaks out, and she's like really worried. And she also starts getting these silent calls every single day. Someone will call her and just like not say anything, and at first she just like, it's like whatever, but then the more it happens, the more it like freaks her out. Another aspect of this is that her mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia when she was 44 and has now passed away. And she also starts experiencing these episodes of forgetfulness. Like, she'll have like people tell her, oh, you said this to me like the other day and we were gonna do this, but she won't have any memory of it. And incidents like that keep occurring more and more frequently, and she again doesn't really talk about it. That was like my first thing that really annoyed me. It's like, she's in this supposedly so happy marriage, but she's incapable of sharing any of these words with her husband. Like, sure, it's kind of hard to admit like you know should have possibly stopped by the road to help that lady, and that like, yeah, maybe you're struggling with dementia, which she didn't even tell him that like her mom had suffered with it, which is also weird to me. But anyway, she doesn't tell him at all, and it's just the first frustrating thing to me. That's like one of the tropes I hate the most in thrillers, is when people that are supposed to talk to each other about these things, and that seem to be in a happy marriage, and like a marriage that would encourage this, and a partner that would encourage this, and they still won't tell them anything for the sake of the plot. Like, it drives me crazy. Here basically I think like starts the slowest part of the book. I mean, it's hard to say slow because I literally read it in a few hours, but like the biggest section of the book is definitely just her feeling like she's going crazier and crazier and like feeling more and more paranoid. Like she starts thinking like someone's in her house, someone's watching her. She has an alarm installed in their house because it's also kind of like away from civilization a little bit, so of course they don't get proper cell service throughout the house. Like, why would they? In a thriller, like, yeah, you get it, there's lots of tropes in here. She goes crazy and crazy, and like even here it's like she has this alarm guy come over and he inspects the house and she feels really uneasy, and then like she apparently like signs a contract but doesn't remember doing it and stuff like that, like keeps piling up and up and up, and she's like bound tighter and tighter and tighter. And then she goes visits a doctor because her husband suggested, and he prescribes her like pills to take that make her really drowsy though, and like really affect her. Like she can't really do anything when she takes them, so she only takes them when he's not home, because this is also over the summer holidays and she's a teacher, so she's home like all the time. When her husband's not home, she gets really anxious in the house, so she takes the medication and just like lies around all day. That's not healthy either, of course. And yeah, and she just goes crazy and crazier. She's so paranoid, no one believes her. Her husband doesn't believe her, her best friend Rachel doesn't believe her. It just, you know. And at this point, I was like, first of all, when does this stop? When is this gonna, like, it's just so much of the same. Literally, throughout this section, there's no plot twist, there's nothing. You're just, like, following her as she goes crazier and crazier, and it's just kind of, I just didn't really care about it. And then the next thing is, like, honestly, there's just so many things, but I'm like, wouldn't happen. This isn't what you would do in a situation. For example, she forgets so many things, sure. She notices she forgets so many things, yes. So, of course, she's maybe in a little bit of a denial about it, but when this is something that, like, you know you might struggle with, why doesn't she start, like, writing things down? She never takes notes on anything. Like, the first thing I would do in a situation is like, okay, maybe I should start a diary and just like record everything I do, like all appointments I make and stuff like that. Like, you would think she would, no. Also, she has this huge calendar on her wall, and anytime she realizes she's forgotten something, she looks there and sees it's been written on there all along, and I'm just like, so wait, why did you not just check it more frequently? I mean, okay, sure, that makes sense. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, there's so many like small things, but they're all really important to be specifically this way, even if they're unrealistic, because they make sense when like the thing is revealed at the end. There's a few other characters that like hop in here and there. I guess they're just there to have more potential suspects for the murder. So yeah, she feels like this person that's leaving her silent calls is the murderer, and she's like really nervous. She's like obviously really scared about it, and like she tells people this in her life, but they're also like really dismissive of it. Like, especially like both her husband and her best friend Rachel will say things like, yeah, it's probably just like some like call center calling you to try to sell you something. I'm like, but they're silent calls. Why would they be trying to sell you something by literally not saying anything? Again, they wouldn't. None of this is really realistic, so yeah. I have an issue with non-realistic thrillers. Like, it's just like, can you at least, I know you really want to tell the story this way, and I know you really have like such a clever thing in mind that you're gonna, you know, reveal to us at the end, but like, don't let the idea that sounds really cool stop you from making the book also kind of realistic, you know? Like, maybe you're gonna have to cut some things that would be so cool because they're just not realistic, but this author decided not to do that, unfortunately. So anyway, the other characters are, for example, John from school, who's like he used to have a thing for her, and she was like considering going out with him, but she never really did. And then also the husband of the murdered woman, her name was Jane, he's Alex, and she like talks to him a few times. He's not, I don't even know why he's really part of the story. Apart from the fact that he's actually the first person that she tells everything to, like that she was there that night, that she feels really guilty, that she feels like she's to blame. And he is actually really nice about it. He like tells her, no, it's not your fault, like you shouldn't feel guilty. And then he also is the person who tells her, like, the person who's calling you isn't the murderer. Like, there's no reason why he would do this. Because she thinks like maybe he saw her that night and now he's like targeting her, but he's like, he literally tells her, I promise you the person calling you is not the murderer. And that was me thinking like, maybe either it's because he's calling her or he's the murderer. Like, In no other case would he say the sentence like that, right? There's so many of these like red herrings, but they're so clumsy because they wouldn't happen otherwise. And I have read so many thrillers at this point that I really noticed like all of the like leads, like people looking at people that they shouldn't know, funnily. So yeah, I feel a little bit iffy about, like, I just felt like the red herrings were a bit clumsily done and they weren't particularly convincing. But half of the book I had kind of put it down like what my theories were, which is either John is the killer, or Matthew is the killer, or yeah, or Matthew. And I was thinking like Matthew and Rachel might be having an affair because the two of them don't get along. They hate each other for no apparent reason, like, sure. So her like mental state is reaching an all-time low when she does like overdoses on her pills, but she doesn't really know how because she's like sure she didn't take more. But yeah, so like her mental state at this point is very bad, okay, to say the least. And then after Alex tells her that like the silent caller for sure isn't the murderer, like literally everything just clicks into place from there for no apparent reason. And then one time she goes to meet Rachel, and Rachel like forgets her phone at the coffee place, so she takes it home and she realizes it's like one of these really old like what's it called, pay phones, not pay phones, pay-as-you-go phones. She looks in the phone, which obviously isn't password protected because otherwise this entire plot wouldn't work. So she finds a phone and she calls the only number that's in the phone, and someone answers and she's like shell-shocked because it's Matthew, her husband. And then she finds in the phone like literally 90% of the last third is just like text conversations that have just been like printed out. And they're literally the most incriminating shit ever. Like they literally say, yeah, we were planning to make her think she's crazy. We're having an affair. We only after her money that she inherited from her mom. It's almost like a villainous monologue, but in a dialogue form. They're literally so specific, and they keep, sorry it's noisy, they keep referencing that they're saying like, no, we can't call each other, we only do this by text. Which again doesn't make sense. If you're talking about like, I don't know, keeping something hidden, like it's so much easier to be secretive about it if you call each other, because there's no actual record of what's being said than if you would send text messages and then again not password protect your phone. Like it doesn't make sense. But if that's not in the book, then like we would never get the reveal, like she would never find out anything. So obviously, conveniently, both of those things happened. So at this reveal I was like kind of excited about it because yes, I'd called it that they were having an affair and like they're probably after her money, but it was still exciting, right? Because I didn't know the specifics, and it was just like, oh my god, they were getting all the information. It's always nice at that part in a thriller. It's always nice regardless of whether you saw it coming or not. And then it just kind of got ridiculous. As I said, it's way too specific, way too like stupid to do that, right? The way they also explained this like attempt at making her go crazy, because apparently it was their plan to make her be like, you know, declared like, what's that word? Not sound of mind, so she couldn't be in charge of her money, so her husband would be in charge and like leave her and run off with Rachel, whatever. The way that they were gonna do that is by making her think that she forgot things. So they would like tell her like, oh, you told me this, or this was like, we did that, you did that. Like they just like planned all these little moments that she thought that she was having issues with her memory and dimension, whatever, was actually just constructed for her to believe that. So first of all, that's really hard to believe. In your memory, like if you have gaps in your memory, I'm assuming you don't like remember the moment differently, you just like not remember the moment at all. So for her to have like so little doubt about this, like she never questioned it really, that she was having issues with her memory, it just doesn't make sense. And then some of the things that they did to her, it was like they exchanged pretty much all of the like machines, like the electronic things in their house, so that she would be confused by the buttons and she'd think like she forgot how to use like a washing machine and a coffee machine. And I'm like, that would never work. Like if you put a completely different washing machine or a coffee machine in somebody's house, like first of all, they would notice not that the buttons, that they wouldn't understand the buttons, but like that they would see it's a completely different machine. And secondly, you would still be able to do the buttons thing. Like, you know, like it's not like it's such a I don't know, sophisticated device that you'd need nobody reads, I'm assuming, manuals on these things anymore. Like, you just know how it works because you've used it 1,000 times and they all kind of work the same way. So it's just like so outlandish. Like, that would never work. Not in a million years would you be confused and think, like, question your own sanity when you suddenly, like, can't handle the microwave anymore. Like, what? For real? So she finds these messages and then she makes the plan to basically frame the two of them for the murder of Jane, because in these messages it's clear that they didn't murder. Like, they say, like, yeah, oh, she was murdered, oh, they talk about, like, it's clear they didn't murder Jane. So she decides to frame them. And again, here for a short period of time I was like, that's really cool. Like, I love it when victims in these types of books, like thrillers, like, just take charge and they take power back and they're like, you're a fucking idiot, you cheated on me, you, like, made me think I was crazy, this is the worst, I'm gonna take revenge. Like, I love it. I feel so vindicated personally for that. Like, I just love it. So I was like, yes, go for it. So she found like a knife in the shed that they had like used to make her think she's crazy once, and she calls the police over it and she tells them, like, she pretends to be like, oh, I don't know, I found this, I hope it doesn't incriminate my husband, and oh yeah, by the way, he wasn't there the night of the murder, like, he was I didn't see him, he was home but I didn't see him, like, and it, at first I was like, yeah, that's good, but then it got, like, again, so specific and again so obvious what she was trying to do. Like, she would ramble on and on and on, and it would seem really, really contrived and like pre-prepared, I guess. In no way would you want to say that in this situation, because it just makes you feel guilty, especially since the police had been over to her house so many times previously, because she had called them worried that, like, someone was in the house when they never were. And there's even one sentence where she actually says, like, oh my god, what have I just said? I know what you're thinking right now. I know you're thinking Matthew killed Jane because he was having an affair with Rachel and she would have told me. And I'm like, are you, what? Just leave some things to the imagination for them. I'm sure they would deduce that. You don't have to be like, oh wait, what? Oh my god, I had no idea. This is the conclusion you would come to. Lord, no, what is this? Like, do you get what I mean? And then again, the police just believe her instantly, regardless of the fact that they had been over to her place on, like, false calls, like false alarm situations, like, so many times. Like, there's no question into her mental state anymore. They're just like, are you sure? Oh, okay, we'll check it out, we'll check it out. Basically, her plan is then to, like, get them into custody, to, like, punish them and keep them there for a few days, and then she would hand over the phone with the text messages so that they would kind of, what's that word? Not incriminated, the opposite of incriminated. Like, it would be cleared, their names would be cleared, because obviously they were talking, like, about other things. But then a police officer comes by and she's like, yeah, thank you, your tips led us to the murderer, and it turns out Rachel is the murderer after all. It kind of was as she said, like, Rachel actually had murdered Jane over worry that Jane might blow the whistle on their affair. And then the ending happens, and this all happens, like, in the last 5 pages. Like, thank you so much for treating me to about 200 pages of this woman's paranoia, but then only giving me the ending and literally the barest of, like, bones. There's, like, nothing, and it literally ends with the police woman leaving after telling her, like, yeah, we have her in custody. What? Excuse you? What just happened? So apparently Rachel was like a sister, almost like a sister to Cass when they were children. Her parents, like, almost took her in or whatever, and they were really close. And when they left all their money to their own daughter, apparently Rachel was really, like, upset. So she actively tried to seduce, it almost says that. It says here, I'm afraid she deliberately set out to have an affair with him, and once he was in love with her, they concocted their plan to have you certified as mentally unstable so that Matthew could get control of your money. So it's literally saying, like, the woman came into the relationship with, like, ill intentions and, like, just seduced her husband away, and obviously he was just a poor victim, whatever, and she just wanted to have the money. Like, to me that's so, like, I don't even know. It's kind of, it's not explicitly saying that, and maybe I'm a little too oversensitive to this, but, like, it seems to me this is coming across as like, yeah, Matthew didn't really do anything wrong. It was like, there was, like, this evil woman that led him astray and ruined their lives. Like, what? That doesn't seem realistic. So apparently also, Cass had bought a house, an actual house in France for Rachel, secretly for her 40th birthday, and she was gonna give it to her literally in a month. And so the last page is literally just, like, her saying to herself like, oh, I was so stupid, I should have just given her the house much sooner, or told her about it, or told Matthew about it, like I should have told her that I had bought her this house, because then she wouldn't have felt so left out of the will, and she probably wouldn't have had an affair with Matthew, and she wouldn't have like killed Jane. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Are you literally blaming yourself right now for not giving her a house sooner? An actual house? Even though just because you're like a second child to anyone doesn't mean that you're like entitled to their money when they die. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, that's really, and I was constantly hoping like that she would somehow like subvert it at some point, just be like, well, no, that's crazy thinking. And I'm just thinking like, no, nothing ever. She's just like, yeah, I guess I should have given her the house sooner, so she wouldn't have gone and done all this shit. And I'm like, excuse me, what? What? And then that's how the book ends, and you're just like left thinking, what the actual fuck? I'm really sad, because I think this book definitely did have potential. I think the idea was good, and the attempts made at doing all these things, they were like fine attempts. I just didn't think like they ever really got there. I feel like it's all very unfinished. Like, as I said, like the idea behind it is good, but then you have to actually sit down and like flesh it out and like question your own idea. And I feel like the author never did that. She just like went with her idea and kind of tossed reality and like realisticness, whatever, completely out of the window. So for me, that's just like a major no-go with any thriller. Like, especially these types of like domestic thrillers, which I typically really enjoy, but like it's just so much creepier and scarier when you actually feel like this could happen. And in this book there were just too many instances of me thinking like, this would never happen, not in a million years would this happen this particular way. So that's just me though. I don't know, maybe some of you have already read this book and you had a completely different experience with it. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really glad I decided to do it, and I'm gonna go now because I think my camera is about to die. So yeah, leave a like and let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and also subscribe to my channel for new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and click the little bell icon please, because if you subscribe to my channel, I'm sure you wanna know when I upload. So yeah, that is it. Have a lovely week, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!